Well, hello and welcome to Fort Edward, New York. We're going to be visiting a house of tremendous historical significance. But first, we're looking at this little building, which was used as a train stop when the Rensselaer-Saratoga Railroad reached Fort Edward in 1948. The stop was known as Moreau Station. Here's a look at the front of the building. But right next to it is the house we're here to see. This is a house that George Washington stayed in, I believe, a couple times on his way to go inspect Fort Ticonderoga and then on his way back. And this house is also connected with a very, very sad event that we'll talk briefly about today. Notice the dates there, 1772, 1773. Fort Edward was a British fort that was strategically located along the Hudson River. And the British, of course, used it in their conflict with the French. When the fort was dismantled in 1772 and 73, Pat Smythe, who had overseen the fort, salvaged its lumber to build this house. So this house is made with the lumber from Fort Edward, the actual fort. In 1777, when the British planned to cut off New England from the other American colonies, General Philip Schuyler and Benedict Arnold both used this house as their quarters. And eventually they relocated to another house, but then British General John Burgoyne moved in. And this was just prior to the battles of Bennington and Saratoga. And after the Battle of Saratoga, General John Stark temporarily lived in this house. And when Pat Smythe sold the house, it was sold to George Washington's surgeon, John Cochrane, who, of course, served in a pivotal way in the Continental Army, came up with an innovative use of inoculations to combat smallpox among the troops. Now, this sign that I'm looking at right now tells a little bit of the story of Solomon Northup, who actually lived in this house from 1829 to 1832. And he is the author of a book called 12 Years a Slave, which is the account of his capture and sale into slavery. Northup was an African-American man born free in New York State, and he was an exceptionally gifted fiddler. In 1841, two men heard him play and offered him a well-paying job, traveling and playing the fiddle. Northup took the offer and he went with the men to Washington, D.C. But days later, Northup woke up in chains, missing his money and missing the legal documents that proved he was a free man. And he spent 12 years enslaved in Louisiana, unable to get word to his wife. until 1853. And when she did find out what had happened to her husband, she took the case to a lawyer who persuaded New York Governor Horatio Seymour to intervene, and he was able to secure his release. Now, they did apprehend the slave trader who was responsible for Northup being taken to Louisiana. They were going to prosecute him, but in Washington, D.C., where the case would be tried, black men could not testify against white men. And the people who kidnapped him were also found and apprehended, and when the case was, they found out it was going to be also tried in Washington, D.C., basically it was dropped. They made a movie in 2013 based on the book. It ended up winning 3 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. All right, we're just going to look around the grounds a little bit. Here's a fireman's memorial. John R. Durkee. And there is John R. Durkee and George Satterley. I guess this building was also used as the Washington County Courthouse. Interesting to look around a little bit. And see over here, Cronkite Pavilion and a schoolhouse. And here's the schoolhouse. Let's take a look at this sign over here. The Riverside Schoolhouse. And here's a report card. Let's see how this student did. I'm seeing mostly A's and B's, so 1 C in spelling. But this student did better as the year went on. Mostly A's at the end of the school year, the second half of the school year, which is great. Well done by that student. Very, very good. Yep. A lot of learning happened right here. All right, so it was, as we look at the front of the building here, the house, it was 1783 when George Washington stayed here. He was traveling to Fort Ticonderoga to inspect the fort. So he stopped here on the way there and I believe on the way back. And now I did get inside briefly. They were not going to give me a tour, and they didn't give me a tour. I guess They don't give tours if you're just one person, but I did kind of get in there briefly. I'm going to show you that video, and it's going to end abruptly, and it's going to leave you wanting more. But anyways, here, the Smythe House. This is the oldest building in Washington, or house in Washington County, according to that. Now, George Washington, they don't know which bedroom he stayed in. I took these pictures when I snuck in there briefly. We know for sure he did eat in that dining room that I'm showing. George Washington ate in that dining room. And I also got to see his expense account, which I'll show in a video in just a second. Here we go. George Washington, in the summer of 1783, he stayed here. Let me show you that video. It's going to end abruptly and the video is going to be over, but anyways, without further ado, let's see George Washington's expense ledger. Thanks for exploring with me. We'll see you.
Things in time, but
you can kind of make it out.
yes. Well, it's kind of like the spoken English was very different at that point, and so was the written English.
Tavern at Fort Edward. Fort Edward returning. So he went up to Ticonderoga.
Yes. From my understanding, this was right as the peace treaty was being signed with the British. So what he was doing was